Tonight on Debate Amongst Friends, Leonardo da Vincenzo and the Villanova up another national championship. Team still jockeying for position in the NFL prior to the draft, and the NBA playoff standings and more starting now.
Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, welcome to Debate Amongst Friends, live on YouTube. This is episode 98 on April 4th, 2018. Welcome to April, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, the Professor John Nagadi, and always by my side, it's the Doc. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing, sir. Doing great, sir. I'm just glad to be with the host with the most, the Professor John Guy, the King of Anji, the troll master, the data analyzing ninja, the conqueror of his own fate, sir. I am doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing, sir, as well. That was two botches in a row for you, sir. What's going on? It feels like
I
it's been
haven't
like
had
a
enough beer
whole
yet.
month since we last did the show, although it's only been 7 days.
I haven't had enough beer yet.
Well, if they're not going to pay us, then we're not going to promote them.
Of course. Of course. Well,
But
let's get into it, sir. We got a little packed show here. Not too much, not too little, but for a 98th edition, I think we have just enough.
you're so right, sir. Monday night was the night to be Dante v. the Vicenzo of the Villanova Wildcats. I placed all over social media. Big congratulations to the Wildcats, aka the Villanova scrimmage game, because that's
Wow.
exactly what it turned into, ladies and gentlemen. It turned into nothing more than a scrimmage match because they took Michigan
I
out.
mean, it had a spark when it started.
It's never how you start, sir. It's always how you end.
I mean, that's why I'm happy that, my intros don't really count too much on the show. Just to
Wow.
make sure so we finish good, even if my intro is
Wow.
bad, I know people out there are like, what the heck did that
Wow.
guy just say?
That's totally different because
Doc,
you
please.
sir, you set the stage of this whole thing. There is no debate amongst friends without the doc, without his charisma, without his passion, his intellect, the dialect of his voice, getting the people to sit in front of their computers, to put their headsets in their ears, get in front of the tablets, in front of their phones, and listen to what the good doctor has to say.
I just set the Dark Carnival stage.
Wow. People don't know what that means.
Hey, you know what it means. But for those who don't know what it means, I mean, Left 4 Dead 2, um, we speed run, we casual play sometimes, and I just so happened to get smacked around a few times in that level on that last credenza event. I always go to I always go the
Ah,
wrong. I feel like I always go the wrong way.
you're talking about the parish, then.
No, Dark Carnival. Remember at the end where they no wait, not the parish. Where's the one with the concert, the Kiss concert?
Oh yeah, that's Scar Carnival.
Oh, then I'm not tripping. Then I knew I wasn't tripping. But let's get back to the show. That's more gaming amongst friends. This is debate amongst friends.
This is debate amongst friends.
But yeah, Dante DiVincenzo dominated. I mean, dominated the Michigan Wolverines. I mean, almost to a point where I felt like he was going to outscore them just by himself.
It literally turned into his world on Monday evening. Twitter has lost their mind. In fact, he had to delete his Twitter, not just for how much his Twitter account was getting bombarded with people giving him props, But
Mhm.
he was also getting bombarded by the trolls and the haters because he put things like he's balling on these N words like I'm Derrick Rose, to quote a Meek Mill's lyric. So, of course, people are gonna dig stuff like that up now.
Now, was this him saying this or other people saying this?
This is him saying it. He was 14 years old when he posted it.
Got it. Now, I will say that I know that they had to shut his page down because he got hacked. But I imagine, he's 14. Of course, they dug it up.
Of course
Um,
they did. And
yeah.
that's one of the things that I hate about social media, or I just hate about this media baiting world that we live in right now, where people are just gonna dig up things for like 10 years ago and try to make that
Hmm.
into relevant news. Like, I don't care about that. Like, I just want to talk about the game. Like, he played the game of his life on Monday night. Let's talk about that. Let's not talk about what he put on Twitter. That shouldn't be any kind of national news. Let's
And you said what, 5 to 8 years ago?
Yeah,
4 to 5 years. So I mean, to me, I could definitely understand that. I mean, what a way to try to take away somebody's shine. Um,
exactly.
you know, um, but I think in this particular world, and we know this because we are on social media a lot. I think that everybody uses their voice. It's just some people choose to use it in a positive manner. Others you tend to use it in a negative manner. Some people
Absolutely.
hide. That's right. I see you. You hide behind the computer and the keyboard. But, if you said that in front of anyone, I would imagine that the last time you manned up, your jaw got stole.
Straight swole.
Exactly. So I think, I imagine a guy of his caliber coming out on the national stage and playing up to that level, getting that national spotlight, he's going to have to overcome those odds. So hopefully he can get to the next level.
Well, I mean, it's not gonna be much of that because he already deleted his Twitter account. So
Well, he deleted his Twitter account because he got hacked.
mm, that's
That's
only
what
one.
that's what
That's only one
that's
part
what
of the
his
story.
that's what his mom said. I'm just going by what his mom said. Mom said, "Hey, we're deleting it because he got hacked."
Well, sometimes Mama lies,
I mean, hey,
and a
you
lot of
gotta
times it's for the benefit of the kids.
you gotta protect them at all costs. I mean, keep your hands up at all time.
I see what you did there.
But I would delete it too if you're putting stuff up there where it's maybe he didn't say those things and he was hacked. I mean, according to the story that I read, it was saying that he hadn't actually used his account in months.
Well,
Uh,
according to them, they also said that he didn't use his Twitter account since 2016. So,
right. So, see, so months or years. I mean, maybe I missed the word, but I mean, to me, it's like it's possible that he could have been hacked. I
highly
mean, it's
doubt it.
possible. You said you highly doubt that he was hacked, which
Hmm.
hacking I hate. You know what? I mean, let's just say he was hacked. I hate that hackers never go for anything big. Um, like do something relevant. Like we always joke about it, but nobody I don't think has really attempted it. But let's wipe out some student loans.
Well, I don't know if you catch up with the anonymous group, but they've been doing a lot of hacking lately in regards to exposures of political figures and whatnot. But I think that's more of a duke it out subject than a debate amongst friends question.
Well, I mean, of course, that is but that's more of a iRobot kind of setup. I mean, I'm talking about actually doing something for the people. I don't care about who's doing who in the political arena and the money laundering. I mean, we know that happens. I'm talking about doing stuff for the people.
More often than we realize, ladies and gentlemen. More often than we realize. But let's talk about the game, though. I mean, you mentioned the first thing you said after the game was over was, I mean, Michigan was in it for the first 10 minutes.
Right. I think it was the same thing that we said, or what I said about the previous game with Loyola.
Hmm.
Um, I think you mentioned it about them. You said they could get cold, or they have a habit of not being able to keep their momentum going, and that's
Hmm.
basically what we saw. They had Villanova, you know, kind of on tilt, but then it was just like a fake tilt.
But it really wasn't on tilt though. It was still first 10 minutes of the game. They're still throwing jabs at each other to use a boxing expression. So there wasn't really killing anyone
Well, that's the
because
thing. I
anything could
mean,
change.
I don't think it was necessarily killing. I don't think I said killing or anything, but I mean to me it's like you have them on the ropes. Really, all I was waiting for Michigan to do was have that big dunk or that big three, and it just never seemed to come in that first half. And Villanova obviously was able to turn it around and hit those dunks and those threes themselves. And again, Leonardo Dante DiVincenzo
Wow.
came off the bench and provided not only a spark, but really, I mean, lit Michigan aflame.
I mean, he basically exposed Michigan for the weaknesses that they had.
He
So
literally
as soon
scored half
as
their points.
I mean, no, but
I'm
I
talking
see
about
what
half
you're
the
saying
points from
there.
Michigan. Like he scored half the points from like of Michigan. Michigan only had 62. He scored 31 points.
You did score 31. You're right. You're right.
So I mean, it's like you just can't have that. I mean, he was just hot. So I mean, there's really nothing that they could really do. Um, I mean, they held Bridges to 19 points. I mean, that's not terrible. But when I'm looking at the stats, I'm like, it was all DiVincenzo.
But that's one of the things that you want, though, if you're, a team. Like, you want people other than your stars. We talk about this with the NBA all the time. Like, you shouldn't have to always lean all of your weight on your superstars. Like, it's those other players that should come out and play as well, too, especially on the road.
True.
I
Very true.
mean, at one side, and I could use a LeBron James team led team as a expression. A lot of LeBron James teams play way better at home than they do away.
Agreed.
But when they're away, LeBron has to play 48 minutes out of a 48-minute game. So by the time they go back to play at home again, it's about the playoffs. Playoffs, I'll talk about playoffs. He's gassed, and that's not good. Like, yeah, it's great.
Definitely.
It's great when everything's hitting on its cylinders when you're at home, but it speaks more about the character of your team if you can really make an impact on the road.
Yeah, I agree. I think in this situation, I think Villanova came out, and I think you're right. They took Michigan's really their best punch in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the game, and they realized that they were SAWFT soft, and they basically went you know King and Strong style on them.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean that's really it. I mean that's really it. I mean that's what happened. It just became like you said, a scrimmage.
It literally became a scrimmage. Like, there was nothing else to do. The coach for Michigan was trying to get someone who you spoke really highly of on the last game, Mo Wagner. You know, was telling him, trying to plead him to get more involved in the game.
Agreed, and I
But
know they
at that
um
point, they was already down by 20.
and I thought honestly they should have relied a little bit more on Jordan Poole, who's been the
Mm-hmm.
guy who's kind of basically got them almost to this point, with the big shot earlier in the tournament. They should have relied on some of the younger guys to try to bring them
Mm-hmm.
back, but I mean, it just didn't work. I mean, I applauded Muhammad Ali Abdur Rahman for his efforts. He gave it all he really had, but in the end, it just wasn't enough.
Just wasn't enough. I mean, this was literally the tournament for either Virginia to lose or Villanova to lose, and Villanova showed out every single game.
Agreed. You know, it is what it is. Like I said, I wanted Michigan to win just to get a new champion. That's usually what I want. I just want a new champion. I mean, I think that's really why you always, why you root for, the underdog because you want just a different champion.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know why Villanova, a UConn women's team, a lot of these teams that are dominant, you don't know why they get to that level and they shine over these other programs where everybody has the same recruiting channels. You all have most teams have the same recruiting potential. Um, but these guys, I would have to go through the recruiting of each person, but you don't see or hear Villanova getting those top five, top 10 guys, like the Dukes, the North Carolinas, those teams, the Clemsons, the Syracuse. You don't see those guys choosing those programs or choosing Villanova, but Villanova continues to put a great team together.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, definitely much credit to them.
Absolutely. Well, let's continue with Villanova for a second and talk about the legacy that they're now leaving. As we're looking at a crossroads. Ha! Shout out to Cody Rhodes there. Crossroads for college basketball and the ways it's going to be played. Will we see a high increase in volume for 3-point shooting?
Well, I think it's more of what you posted a couple of weeks ago, where you showed the disparity of how basketball used to be played and how it's played now, and it was like if you're short, you shoot you used to dribble or whatever, and now everybody shoots the three. I think everybody wants to shoot the three because the three has become more flashy than the dunk.
Yes, the three is sexy now.
Yes, definitely. So I think it will, and eventually all five guys on the court are going to be able to shoot the three. We're probably going to get away from 7-foot players eventually playing unless they can shoot the three. I mean, just thinking about the top five picks in this year's draft, I mean, I would have to imagine that Marvin Bagley's going to be up there,
Mm-hmm.
possibly Bridges. I think the only one who I'm not too sure about is the guy that, and Chris would have to definitely help me find that guy, but there's one guy, I believe he goes to, I want to say Texas so bad, but there's a guy who is a center, and he, from what I know, doesn't shoot the three, if I'm not mistaken. I can definitely try to get Chris to find his name. He just sent it to me, actually. DeAndre Ayton from Arizona, not Texas.
Yes.
And I don't know if he's somebody that can shoot the three, but I know that he's somebody who's a nice shot blocker and obviously a two-way scorer, probably mid-range at best, and a good rebounder. But other than that, I don't really know if we're gonna see the return of the big man going specifically to the block. I'm not sure if we're gonna get another Shaquille O'Neal.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the dominant big man factor is becoming more obsolete as the years come along because of just how much the game is more revolved around 3-point shot now. But we can have those once in generational really good big men come along. We have that now in the NBA. We have with Joel Embiid, we have the Anthony Davis and whatnot. Yes, they could go out and shoot the three, but they really make their money being low post, high post, sometime maybe about 20% back to the basket kind of people. Like it can still have an impact. It's not as in high volumes as it used to be anymore. Now the floor is more open.
So
Everyone
what
has
we
to
see,
handle. Everyone has to be able to shoot a 20-foot jumper.
so what we see in the NBA is basically what we're gonna see more in college basketball.
Yes. Now I want to bring something up because of how we're now finished with the college season and we're going to start going towards the next college season. And Jay Williams mentioned about how I think it was Jay Williams, so it might not have been Jay Williams. And if it's not, I apologize. Um, I think it's the guy who keeps saying, "Come on, baby," the guy who's always hyped about things, bro. Um, Anywho, he mentioned how one of the things that the NCAA need to do for basketball, at least for the men's, not so much for the women's, is to push the 3 point line back uh, to make it international standards instead of college standards because Villanova shot way like they shot as much threes as like your Houston Rockets or the Golden State Warriors. If you
Mm.
really think about it. And yes, I could probably take that and weigh it out because it's probably not exactly the same, but they shot a lot of threes. If you look at the highlights, it's a lot of threes shot.
So I mean, I wonder if that's something that's the committee or the board is looking into doing. I mean, I think with college basketball, it's so unpredictable with the scoring that would be the only reason that they wouldn't push it back. But honestly, I think to get guys ready for the NBA, I think they should push it back. Honestly, there are some people who, like Jimmer Fredette, who used to shoot from quote unquote Jimmer range. Um, I know that technically that probably was closer to the NBA three and maybe a step behind the NBA three now that we look at it a little deeper, but they probably should move it back. It wouldn't be a terrible idea.
Well, it's definitely going to be in consideration this offseason. You know, like I said, just looking at what Villanova was able to do and what they have done, they have to bring into consideration out. Am I for it? Absolutely. I think, bringing a higher degree of difficulty, not to mention it'll help out a lot of players as they head towards the NBA, especially the one and dones, because that's still a thing. Um,
Right.
it's a much more easier transition. So if they go into the NBA as a 3 point shooter, they're going to stay as a 3 point shooter.
That's true, and they'll be prepared. They won't just think that the preparation will be better. You'll be able to see exactly what you're getting. As far as a 3 point shooter in the NBA, there won't be a learning curve because of that short distance. I agree. I think it should be, but I mean, you mentioned a good point. I guess that we can move on after this. But I was watching. I think it was maybe one of the NBA shows on ESPN, and they brought up one of the ladies brought up an interesting topic about the one and dones. It might have been outside the lines or something like that, actually, and they were saying how the G League could be used to kind of help players skip college if they wanted to do that. So instead of them going from high school to college, they can go from high school to the G League. They would automatically get that G League salary of whatever it is, 75,000 or whatever it is, and start playing. And if they want to declare for the draft, they could still declare for the draft, but they would play for the G League for that year instead of going to college. What do you think about that? You think any that could potentially happen, or would that work?
I think that's going to end up being the new trend, especially if you mentioned people coming out of high school. A lot of people are going to start doing that now.
Well, I mean, I don't think the rules in place just yet.
But
With
but once it happens, and I'm pretty sure it is going to happen, because the NBA is all about money, and we love Adam Silver and the job he's done.
Mm-hmm.
But this is going to cause a lot more potential student athletes from skipping college to going straight to the NBA because they know they can go there and they can get paid right away.
But I mean, it's interesting because yes, they can get paid right away, but now you're going against, and I guess this is where it gets kind of interesting. You're going against grown men in some situations. Not everybody in the G Leagues, 19, 18, 17. Some of these guys are, I believe they go up to 23, 24 years old. So even though they're not they're an affiliate of an NBA, they may have played in the NBA game, and some of those guys are really really good, just waiting for their shot.
Yep.
Honestly, it's interesting. It's an interesting thing. I couldn't see still a 17, 18-year-old kid coming in and playing well in the G League, but at the same time, I think it's still a good opportunity to see them progress
Yes.
into
Well,
something big.
I mean, if we're gonna be honest about it all, I mean, the G League is basically the farm system of you know, of the MLB. That's basically what the G League is now. So while they won't just be coming in there and just displaying their skills, they're also there to hone their skills and to learn, hone their skills, perfect it, find areas of improvement, and trying to work on those. Versus
But I
having to
guess
do all that, then have the academic expectations as well,
that's true.
and then still not get paid.
That I can agree with. I mean, but see, I guess in that sense, if that was to happen and the NCAA realized that they were losing money, of course, at that time, they probably wouldn't be able to pay $75,000,
Oh,
uh,
absolutely not.
but they probably would offer some type of compensation.
I mean, but okay, then let me put you in the committee of the NCAA shoes for a second. Then they now allow high school students to go to the G League. They get paid
Hmm.
$75,000 to go into the G League. Right now, you offer student athletes a full ride. They have
Right.
a full scholarship, and all the stuff that comes with full scholarship. What else can you actually offer them to make them go, well, an education is nice, but I can get $75,000 per year right now, which is, for the most part, especially with how certain companies are, well, how the job market is, that's more than what people coming out of college makes.
So I think some of the things that John Calipari wrote in his book, Players First, he made some recommendations. And I think one of the ones that he made was, to allow the players to make money off of their names. I think, allowing them to, receive financial gifts, because a lot of them, and I guess this is where the issue comes in, a lot of them, you know, can't even eat properly based on the funds that they're given. It's not like they're given a certain amount for food. So I think a lot of times there's a lot of rules in the place that kind of hinder a
Cheating.
player from. Hmm? Wow, wow, that kind of hinder players from reaching their full potential.
Mm,
Um, and I think that it will be hard for them to keep players. They're gonna lose a lot of top 25 to top 50 talent to the G League. So college basketball may revert back to how it was, you know,
back in the
20, 30, yeah,
yeah,
whatever amount of
yeah,
years ago, where players were staying 4 years and, getting those scholarships. So, I mean, it would be interesting to see the experience factor, and I'm sure it's going to be out of the norm to have a player actually, get drafted who stays in school for 4 years.
yep.
But the NCAA could then change the rule to make it 2 years, and it wouldn't be a big backlash. And I think it'd
Yeah,
be
but they
cool.
should have made it 2 years 5 years ago.
Hey,
I
I'm
mean, and
just,
I'm being nice about it. Like
I'm,
that would at
there's,
least put them ahead to try to prevent things of hey, now we have this G League thing where if you just come in here straight from high school, you get $75,000 a year.
right.
Like you
Absolutely.
make the value of education way more valuable that way.
I mean, if they're given 75,000.
No, if they have to stay 2 years before the whole 75, we're talking about before even $75,000 per year in the G League wasn't even a sparkle in the
Oh,
eye of
definitely.
Adam Silver.
I really never understood why the NCAA just didn't make it e- either it's going to be the same, and I guess the point that I was about to make is that it should be the same across all sports. So if
Hmm.
basketball, baseball and football, which is the major sports to me, I mean, obviously some people might feel that lacrosse and some of these other, soccer and some of these other sports are a little different, but baseball, you can come out at high school.
Yep.
Football, you got to wait 3 years. So basketball, I mean, why would you put that in the middle? Like, I mean, I don't even understand. It
Because
should either be,
basketball's weird.
you know, if a player feels like they're big or they're big enough, they're fast enough, they're strong enough to play football as a sophomore, I mean, technically, I mean, you should let them go and play. They're probably not ready, but I mean, what the heck? But the same goes with basketball. I mean, if a player like LeBron feels like they're ready, even though LeBron wasn't ready, really his first year, I mean, he took a lot of shots, he scored a good amount of points,
I
but
mean,
you
yeah,
know,
because his team was still the Cleveland Cavaliers, though. Like, they were still trash.
hey, he scored.
I mean, if you're the only star of the team and everyone else on your team is trash, of course you're gonna score.
I mean, he could have shot a lot of bricks.
He did shoot a lot of bricks.
I mean, hey, I'm just trying to give him some kind of benefit of the doubt. But I'm
No!
saying, I mean, listen, I don't mind giving him the benefit of the doubt because when he first started, he was cool. Like, he was all right. It was when really his whole thing went down. Really, when he decided to leave, that was the big thing. But I think it was the way he left, of course, which left a bad taste in most of our mouths. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. I just think that ultimately, my final opinion on it is, it should be universal. Hey, if you want to be a student athlete, you commit at least 2 years to the school. Will allow you like to make money off of your name. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then that's it. Like one kid, I remember I was watching a documentary about the NCAA, and I think he put out a rap or something on YouTube, and it got really big. But because he was on the football team, he couldn't reap any benefits from it. I think it removed his amateur status or something like that. It was something weird, where he couldn't use his name or his face really. And that goes back to the whole NCAA football and NCAA basketball games where they used to use the player likeness
Yep.
and they got sued. So it's kind of like both ways. Everybody's making all this money, but the players are eating ramen noodles.
Exactly.
So it
And
just
we're
has to
all for
change.
the players getting paid, just. I would rather them get paid a nice amount, not anything that's gonna make them feel too entitled, because that's probably the biggest issue about the whole thing.
I mean, you give a 17, 18-year-old kid an opportunity to go make $75,000 in the G League, and
They're
he
gonna
might not
take
even,
that.
yeah, he might not even play more than 10 to 15 minutes a game,
Nope.
but he's gonna make that cash.
He is gonna make that cash.
So. But I mean, I think that's definitely a good amount. I think a good segue. Maybe something we will have to wait and see what the committee says. If they have that conversation, if the NBA has that conversation, we'll have to just wait and see.
Just have to wait and see.
Um, but let's definitely move on, though, sir.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the winners and losers of the tournament as a whole? Do you want to go on to the NBA?
Um, the winners and losers of the tournament. Honestly, I don't think there was. I know there were some upsets in the beginning of the tournament, but this was just a different tournament. I think they were all winners.
Really?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I mean, this is such a different tournament. Obviously, I know that some brackets were busted prematurely. But it wasn't like they were flukes. Like these were teams that were really going on Cinderella runs, and
Hmm.
and like Virginia, like they lost to a team that didn't lose in the next round. You know what I mean?
You're right.
So I think I don't think there was. I can't say winners and losers. I'm sure some people are going to disagree with me because their bracket was busted and they're still a little salty about it. But
I
you
mean,
know,
it busted for me. I mean, but if you check the bracketing amongst friends, I mean, I won by points, so I'm pretty happy about that. But at the same time, it was a lot of disappointments. But that's what makes the madness.
yeah, that's why I don't think it can be considered, winners and losers, or I just feel like it was a good NCAA playoffs. I think the tournament was really what we want it to be every year, what the madness is all about.
Absolutely.
So we can definitely move on to the NBA.
Let's do it then. We're literally just tasting the playoffs right now. We're going from one tournament into the next tournament, sir. I can taste that ring for a team. I mean, let's talk about the biggest thing, though. So last night, the San Antonio Spurs lost to the Los Angeles Clippers. So their
Mm-hmm.
consecutive streak of getting 50 plus wins is now over.
Finito.
Done. They
It's
cannot
finished.
get 50 wins anymore.
They can only top out at 49.
Yep.
Um, but I think that's okay. I don't think Pop really cares about that. He's in the playoffs. You know, right now slated against the Utah Jazz
Mm-hmm.
as it stands. And obviously, 4 games. I don't think they could be major shifts. I think, the 4 and 5 and 6 might be able to move around a little bit,
Well,
depending on.
so far, no one clinched. The only team that's clinched lately was the Trailblazers in the Western Conference only.
When you say clinched.
They clinched their playoff spot.
Well, the Rockets
I mean,
clinched
they
home.
clinched the. Yeah, we know this though. I was
Oh,
it,
okay.
it was it
Uh,
should have not been said at all.
so I guess
But I
the
get
Rockets
what
and the
you did
Warriors,
there.
the Rockets and the Warriors are there. Like they're 1 and 2. We know that.
Yes. Yes.
So the Trailblazers are the only person who you're saying clinched that number 3 spot.
Correct. So we
Well,
still
that's
have the
because
4 to 8 seed all up for grabs.
they're all 44, 45, and 33 and
All
34. So
separated by 1 or 2 games.
yeah. So and they probably play each other somewhere along the line. So we'll definitely see what happens. Um, But as it stands right now, I would love to see Portland versus Oklahoma City. Um, don't I would rather us play Utah, but I know that's probably not going to happen. The one thing I don't want to happen is we have to play San Antonio for 6 games. So if we got to play New Orleans, I think we can cook up Anthony Davis a few times, make him really shave his unibrow. But
Wow.
I don't want to play a lot of these other teams in the series. Um, but as it stands, it's Houston versus New Orleans, Golden State versus Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
Portland versus Oklahoma City, and Utah versus San Antonio. Um, all would be great series. I think Jimmy Butler's will be coming back from Minnesota by the season's end.
Yep.
So I think that is going to be good for whoever they match up against. Although they've been very disappointing, I think them being in the playoffs could be, you know, could you
They
know,
could rejuvenate themselves.
yeah, they
I mean,
could.
granted, it's
Oklahoma
against the
City
Warriors, but
right now, but think about it like
as of right now,
yeah, think about it like this. Think about if they go and play and have to play against the Utah Jazz, or even if they had to play against San Antonio, I think that would be a good matchup for them
I think
to
that'd be a
potentially
great
come out
tournament.
of.
Yep.
So I think that will be good. The West is really interesting this year. Obviously, Oklahoma City, I think they're just still trying to gel. If they all stay together next year, they might win a few more games and get a little bit more chemistry.
Hmm.
They might have to let Steven Adams go so they can get more offensively.
That is hilarious.
He makes a lot of money. They're not gonna have a lot of wiggle room,
Really feel
but
like someone said that last year.
Probably, maybe if I was you.
Yeah, it
I
was
don't think
me.
it was me.
Although they are doing a great job of keeping Q-Mart's predictions to be absolutely correct by making themselves the sixth seed.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, like you said, they're all a game away. I think most teams are going to be like, hey, we're in the playoffs, like whatever. Portland, I think Damian Lillard's going to be sitting down probably these next couple of days because he was carted off the field. The field, wow, carted off the
Wow.
court last night. So we'll definitely see what happens. Um, but I think the West is going to be so good. But let's look at this East.
Wait, hold on. Before we go to the East, though, we still have two other teams still alive to
There,
make a playoff to get into a playoff position, and that's the Denver Nuggets and the team that beat the Spurs last night, the LA Clippers.
well, we don't want the Clippers, so I don't want the Clippers at all. So I'll pick the Nuggets for 100, Alex. um, but you're talking about all right. So if the Nuggets do happen to sneak in and take out the Pelicans, and again, you said 2-8, so I kind of didn't even look at those other teams. But the Clippers will have to win out.
They have to win out, and they really need people to lose.
The Nuggets would just have to really win out, and again, hope people lose too. I mean, really, everybody has to just win. That's why I wasn't even gonna really go over it because it's really about winning. And if you don't win, you're not
You don't get
in.
in.
Yeah, that's it. That's really it.
No, I
And that's
agree.
why it's like the East is like a little different because it's like they're the East teams are in.
The East teams are all in except for the eighth seed.
You think so?
The eighth seed is still up for grabs right now.
Really? You think so?
Technically, according to percentages, they have not clinched.
I mean, Detroit would have to win all 5 games. Um, I don't think so. I don't think that's happening.
I'm just telling you what I see. You know, I don't think they're gonna make it. I think the Bucks, who has still been a huge disappointment this year. Granted, they did get rid of
Yes,
Jason Kidd, so maybe next year will be better.
depending on who they bring in, of course.
Of course, you know, I mean, heck, if they bring in Mark Jackson, granted, it'd be a new
Hmm.
point guard as a coach, but I think Mark Jackson would put them at another level.
True, that's true.
But then again, I
Um,
want Mark Jackson to go to the Knicks, but that goes without
right,
saying.
right. I
But
mean,
here's the matchups for the Eastern Conference. We would have
hmm
the top seed, the Toronto Raptors, going up against the Milwaukee Bucks, as we mentioned before. We'll
hmm
have the number two seed going against the seventh seed. The number two seed Boston Celtics. Goodness, I need to say the names. Against
No,
the
you
seventh
good.
seed Washington Wizards. The number three seed LeBron Cavaliers versus the number six seed Indiana Pacers. The number four seed, the Miami Heat, against the number five seed 76ers. The Heat clinched last night.
And the Heat clinched. What's the record you have it as? I think I might be looking at the wrong one then,
42-36.
because I have the matchup, which I guess looking at it, it doesn't make any sense. This person might have just put them there. I actually have the Cavs and the Heat playing against each other, 3-6. But
Oh
that
yeah.
kind of oh, you know what? Because the Wizards and the Heat have the same record,
Yes, but
as well as the Pacers.
The Pacers have 46 wins. The Heat and the Wizards have 46
Yeah, I
wins.
have the Pacers at number 5.
What site are you using, sir?
I'm on ESPN actually.
I'm using CVS Sports, which was updated like today.
I mean, this shows me. Let's look at it.
Chris,
Yeah.
Chris.
Let's think about it here. Let's do it just to make sure here. So, all right,
I'm gonna check another
Boston's
site.
50.
I'm gonna check another site
Yeah,
that I
I mean, let's just
finished.
look at it. Boston's 53-24. Cleveland's 48-30. They have Philly at 47-30 at number 4. But then Indiana
And they have
46 and
Miami at number
32.
seven.
Yeah, see, I guess it just depends. Like Miami and Washington have the same record, so they probably just have them flip flopped.
Yeah,
But
they probably did something based off the percentages.
ESPN probably has them playing Cleveland because of the story.
Yes. And
You
you know
know.
what? That makes better sense though.
Yeah.
Because ESPN is, one of the most notorious, no, 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 notorious media baiters out there.
Wow. Wow. I agree, though. I agree. I just wanted to say wow. But yeah, that's I guess that's the difference. So really, we don't know. I mean, after these 4 games, it could come out this way. It could come out the way that you said it. Um, we're just here to go over anybody that we think could make a splash. I mean, I would love for the 6 seed to overtake Cleveland. Somebody today asked me who I felt was going to win a championship,
Hmm.
and she actually said, "Oh, I think it's going to be Cleveland and Golden State again." And I was like, "No, if that happens, basketball will be terrible."
Yeah, I think they really put Miami against Cleveland just for the story.
I mean, but that's how it would go. I mean, they,
I
they would they would they would make it happen.
I am totally now gonna have to look at the percentages right now. So go ahead, keep going, sir. I'm gonna let you know what the percentages are.
Let's see the percentages for the final thought. I mean, I definitely understand them. I mean, it's possible that they might have just put him in there um, again for the story or because of the percentage. It could be anything. CBS could have just did the opposite.
CBS was like, well, we want to at least give you the right stuff. Granted, CBS is also known for media banning, but not so much for the sports side.
I think they had a typo last week, didn't they?
I think they did have a typo last week.
So I mean, I wouldn't even let them get you down, man. I mean, I think by next week we'll have all this shaped up and there
They
will
have the
be no
same percentages and stuff. Okay,
that's
whatever,
what I'm saying.
whatever,
Yeah, that's what I say.
whatever.
That's why it's like it's weird.
You know what?
uh,
Wait, Chris, could you check NBA.com, please?
wow.
Like, out of all the sites to give us the playoff standings, that's the site.
I mean, yeah.
Because we need to figure this part out. We need to know. So, according to NBA.com, thank you, Chris, for the information, the Miami Heat, percentage wise, is the 6th seed, will be going up against the Cavaliers.
That's the way NBA.com has it. Okay. I mean, but
Yes.
they could be media, baiting as well, of course.
Well, I mean, they probably still have some influence from the Angel of Stern.
Wow.
I went there.
I mean, but when you look at the matchups, both in the East and the West, this is going to be
I
a
see
great.
why. Okay, so conference record, they have a better conference record compared to both Washington and Milwaukee. They have a better
Yeah.
division record. They have a better home record. Yeah, so that's why, because of
So
the conference record.
got it.
So
I
conference
mean,
record is why.
the playoffs are going to be good though, either way.
Oh, I'm looking forward to these playoffs. We're finally not going to see LeBron James' team absolutely steamroll the East.
I honestly believe that this is going to be a year where we might actually not see any sweeps.
I am all for that idea. At least in the East, we won't see any sweeps. But the West, we might see a sweep.
I I'm going to go on a limb and say my bold prediction is that there are no sweeps, even with my Rockets. I think they'll drop a game or two.
I'm okay with that. I mean, granted, I did say that your Rockets will at least have one game if you face
Yeah,
off against, I think it was the Pelicans first. Or no, it was the Jazz first last week.
yeah, it was the Jazz.
But we can also, and this is one of my bold predictions, we could finally see for the first time ever LeBron James getting bounced out in the first round.
You think Miami could do that?
I think that's a team that Cleveland doesn't want to play.
I mean, but this year there's really no team that I in the East at this time that I hmm only team that I would want to play maybe Washington,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
maybe. So if I'm Boston, I'm really happy that I'm playing against Washington. Um, I don't know if Cleveland has anybody that could stop Whiteside. So we'll see
That's
what
so
happens with
weird. So
that.
many websites giving us so many different rankings. They have. I'm looking at USA Today. They have Miami at number 7. Like it's so weird.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
mean, so let me ask you this then: do you see if Miami managed to still keep that seeding that they have? Do you see them potentially, the Cavaliers, tanking like they did last year to avoid a team that can give them problems? Or is it now unavoidable?
I think it's unavoidable. I don't think. I think it doesn't matter for them because I mean they could tank, but they would fall to the number 4 seed. Actually, they might even fall to the number 5 seed. I guess it wouldn't matter, but they could wind up having to play a team. They could wind up having to play
The
they could wind
Celtics
up having to
first?
play the Heat anyway. Like I don't think
Oh,
you can avoid you can't really avoid this because when you think about it, look at it. The Indiana Pacers, let's say they went out, right? They stay at 5, or no, they would move up to 4.
yep,
Philly would move up to 3.
yep.
Cleveland would move down to what 5? Let's just say. So if they move down to 5. They would be playing the Pacers, which the Pacers are not an easy team.
Nope.
They actually have bounced back very well without Paul George.
I mean, just think about it. That was only what, 5 years ago when they was a elite team. I'm using air quotes for elite because the referees didn't necessarily make them feel elite at that time.
Yeah, I think 5 years is a good number. They
You
had
see,
some.
you see what I did there.
I did. I see what you did there. I mean, I think they're going to be good this year in the playoffs. They're not going to be slouches again. These series are going to be really really good.
I'm looking forward to it. All the series as it stands right now looks like must see TV. Like we really don't see any potential blackout series happening.
Yeah, I really look forward to Portland versus Oklahoma City if it stands.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Real good. But other than that, I think we'll have to just wait and see what happens next week. I mean, the last games are coming up, and we'll have to just see.
Absolutely. So, one other thing before we head into football, I want to talk about, and this is regards something that a gentleman from a show called Undisputed mentioned today,
Uh
and I want
oh.
to get your take on it. This man, who is a Hall of Fame football player
Uh huh.
for the championship Broncos teams, uh, who's now dubbed the name of LeShannon, LeShannon Sharp, because he is a bronzexual.
Wow.
He said that LeBron James should be this year's MVP. He said that over the past 18 games, where LeBron James have been having a clinic, and he's right as far as the stats, just the stats, that LeBron James has been playing out of his mind, that he should overtake James Harden as the MVP this year. I wanted to get your thoughts about this.
I mean, my opinion is it's not just about the stats; it's about the overall win record. From what I remember,
I
it
don't
was the
know.
win
Last year told
record.
you a different story.
I mean, I thought that's what the whole thing was. It was win record, then it was stats, and then it was whatever other crap they throw in there. But that's what my understanding was. James Harden's been beasting. I don't care what nobody says. I don't think LeBron is scoring more than him through the season. Forget those 18 games. Anybody can score a lot in 18 games. We don't even know who he played in these 18 games. But
Hilarious.
to me, we can't look at 18 games and say, hey, somebody should get an MVP. We had to look at the whole season, just like we always do.
I can understand that. But and I had a chance to look at like the MVP standings as it looks right now. Unofficially, of course, ladies and gentlemen. Unofficially.
Mm-hmm.
For the 2017 MVP, number 1, James Harden. Number 2, LeBron James. Number 3, Chris Paul. Number 4, Kevin Durant. And number 5, Russell Westbrook.
That is interesting that Chris Paul would be in there. He missed a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm pretty shocked at that. I could, and I'm pretty shocked that Giannis isn't in there either. Um, but
Giannis is number 8 in this list.
wow, who's
But
number
this is
six
based
and
off of
seven?
probability. I'll tell you all 10 then. So number
No.
6 is Dame
Oh,
Lillard. Number 7
okay,
is AD. Number 8 is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Number 9 is Kyrie Irving. And number 10 is Karl Anthony Towns.
got it. I mean, out of the list, and I think about it, I think James Harden just has to win it this year. I think he stepped his game up. He's become the most valuable player again. Bet like if we get bounced out of the playoffs in the first round, God forbid, he probably won't win it. But
But
we make it to the.
it's a regular season award, not a regular season in the first part of the playoffs.
But you already know. You already know how it is. You already know. If they don't win the first round, he's not going to win it. They're going to
Because
find
if
that.
because if that's the case, then Westbrook shouldn't have been the MVP last year. And I'm using this as a reference because we had this, heated discussion about it because we said James Harden should have won it last year.
But it's hard to take away from Mr. Triple Double, especially when people are giving him rebounds.
Ah, I see what you did there. I mean, speaking of Mr. Westbrook, he is averaging a triple double this year.
The wins, though, again, I
But
mean,
it was the same thing last year. Like that's the thing that boggles my mind. Like you can't
well,
say it's triple doubles and then well he's the sixth seed. Like
but
it's
you know what
weird
it is. You really know what it is. I mean, I know you're playing devil's advocate, but you know what it is. I mean, last year was so unprecedented. It hasn't been done in a while. It hasn't been done, to an extent as he did it. But this year, it's like, oh, he did that last year. It's
to
not really
redo
as impressive.
again. Like, but
But
that's
it's
the
not as
point
impressive because
though.
he's done it already. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I mean, last year was like, oh, that was great. It's oh man, it was so phenomenal. What can he do? If he would have had a triple double, and his team would have been top two, top three in the West,
Hmm.
he probably would be top three in the voting. But this year, he kind of just doing the same thing he did last year, but maybe the people are seeing, hey, they're letting him get the rebounds this year as opposed to last year, and his triple doubles are leading to wins.
I mean, that's stupid.
I mean, I just saying. I mean, it was like you couldn't really say, hey, man, he's averaging a triple double, man. He's got to get that. Man, he's got to get that MVP last year, but this year it's like, oh, we've seen
but
that before. He's not the most valuable player on the team. He's not carrying them to victories.
but okay, so and I don't know why no one didn't use this as an argument last year, and maybe I should have done that. I should have been the one behind the one in 21 and one, but everyone wanted to compare what Russell Westbrook did compared to the Big O. Oscar
Mm-hmm.
Robinson brought his team to the Eastern Conference Finals that year. That he averaged a
Mm-hmm.
triple double. That's leading a team to victory.
Agreed.
So getting bounced in the first round, so we're still just going to celebrate mediocrity. And I'm not saying it towards you. I'm just saying to the people, we're still going to celebrate mediocrity. We're still going to celebrate stat padding. We're still just going to celebrate, an award that's literally offensive based. Like, can we finally say that the MVP award is offensive based and not based off of other stupid metrics like win loss records and, total win shares and plus minuses and all the other crap that I usually like to talk about? Can we just say it's a offensive MVP award like how we have in the football?
No, apparently not. Basketball is just too different.
But I mean, you get what I'm saying, though.
I mean, I hear you, but
Do you get
it's
what I'm saying?
just no. I hear what you're saying, man. It's just basketball is just a different sport. It's judged differently. The popularity is a little bit more where people hate Tom Brady, but he'll still win MVP because his numbers speak volumes.
Peyton Manning
Um,
won 5 of them.
I mean, people like Peyton Manning. He just couldn't win in the playoffs. I like what's that guy from the FGC I always talk about. But it's like
No, you did not go there.
I did, I
I,
did.
you know who it is, right?
Oh, I know who it is. You know who it is.
Yes, that's why I said I can't believe you said that.
I know his name too. I just didn't want to say it. I mean, sometimes I have to be a punk about it.
Oh
I'm just saying, sometimes you got to be afraid.
no! I can't believe this. I can't believe that.
But I think
I can't
the
believe
NBA
this.
is still something that they're gonna have to, look into and see. But I just think Russ, what he was doing last year, again, it was new. It was like a shiny toy, and that we've seen that act before, so it's not as impressive.
That that makes me want to go outside and puke.
I mean, get your tums ready, I guess.
I mean, but I said the same thing last year. You know?
I mean, but it was shiny. It was new. It was something that we hadn't seen in our time. You know what I mean? Somebody averaging a triple double, somebody doing it so many times. Even though it didn't equate to wins, it was something that people didn't see before. Couldn't say no to it.
Oh, and that person that you mentioned before just changed teams too, so that's why I was having a meltdown.
Maybe that could be your final thought.
No, no, it's way. I already mentioned that before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that it should definitely be James Harden. I think what he's done in Houston this year, I think he's elevated his game. You could tell with some of the adjustments that they had to make. Think about it. We really got rid of what about 5 or 6 players on the team,
You,
and
the team definitely made some adjustments. I will say that.
yes. So I mean, he's definitely changed his style. I mean, I think that even though he's still taking a lot of threes, he's definitely drove to the basket a lot more this year.
I mean,
I think he's
even
healthy.
still, even though he is taking a lot of threes, it's not to the detriment of the team though.
Yeah, I think the years before he was trying to do too much, where this year is a little more fluid. I'm just surprised that Chris Paul's on the list, honestly.
And Chris Paul's the heel. You mentioned it, a few episodes ago. I now see it. He is a heel, and I
I
love
think
it.
I think he's on the list, really, because I mean, you never really thought that he could shoot the three ball the way he's done. He's playing great defense,
He never
uh,
had to shoot the three ball.
but now he's just daggering,
Now he's making people look stupid.
and I love it. So all we need now is Anthony Davis, and I'll be a happy Rockets fan.
I mean, I think you'll be okay with Clint Capella though. Clint Capella's been balling, bro.
Nah, I love Clint Capella. I was just kidding about
Okay.
Anthony Davis.
No, you're not. He
Unless
was
we,
not. He
unless we,
was not kidding
unless,
about Anthony
unless,
Davis.
unless we could trade, Ryan Anderson to, get Anthony Davis, and that'd be pretty sweet.
He was not joking about that.
But let's transition to some football, though,
Let's
sir.
talk about football, sir.
What in the world is going on?
Well,
Where you wake up in the morning, A player is on one team. You go to work, you eat lunch, and then you spit out said lunch because then that player is traded to another team who's already being stacked to win a championship. What in the world is going on?
It's
Brandon
crazy.
Cooks traded to the St. Louis, Los Angeles Rams
I
for a
mean,
first six
obviously,
round pick.
obviously Robert Kraft did not appreciate him getting spine busted on the grandest stage of them all.
Obviously, clearly, that was the whole thing. Now, I mean, the one thing I'll say is that somebody put out a meme earlier, which I don't think this is going to happen. It would be interesting if it did, but the Giants want two first round picks for Odell Beckham Jr. and surprise, surprise, the Patriots have them.
Yeah, that's been a story today.
But I don't think that's gonna. I just don't see it.
I can.
You think Bill Belichick? You think Bill Belichick can put up with unless this is Bill's really last year and they're gonna re-sign Odell Beckham Jr. He's gonna resign, and then this is really setting up for Josh McDaniels to have the quarterback of the future and Odell Beckham Jr. for the next 5 years in this particular draft.
Well, here's why I said this is most likely going to happen. So, based off of what we kept reading last season, there's high tensions within the brass of the Patriots organization.
Uh huh.
Getting someone as nuclear as Odell Beckham Jr., this is Bill Belichick's way of setting a landmine to go off. Especially if they sign him for a couple of years.
I mean, they would
So,
have to resign him because he's not going to play unless they resign him.
exactly. So, midway through the season, Belichick's like, you know what? Screw this. Y'all have fun with this. Bye. So now they have to deal with this person's ego without one of the best, possibly best, arguably one of the best people as far as getting people to play to their full potential despite whatever history they have.
True. I just don't know. I mean, I think Odell would change. I think New York. I mean, because you think about it, Gronk is allowed to be Gronk outside of football. So I imagine Odell will still be able to be Odell outside of football. I mean, I think Gronk and Odell together would be ridiculous. I just don't think they're gonna do it.
I agree.
I
I
just don't know.
mean, you mentioned that, but I mean, they also mentioned about OBJ going to the Packers.
See, I didn't hear the Packers. I heard the Panthers. Somebody actually messaged me at work and said the Panthers could be interested, which I think we talked about it last week. That would be good. The whole Steve Smith thing we talked about last week. Um, Only reason I don't think the Packers are going to do it because they don't believe in paying wide receivers big money. They never have. That's why Jordy Nelson was cut. When you think about it, I mean, I hope that you would think about it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Also, Forrest wanted me to send a shout out to the doc. Sent me a message just now.
Oh,
But let's look at some of the other news that happened. RG3 is now going to be the backup to Jersey Joe Flacco out of Baltimore.
so I'm a little taken back because the Ravens were the ones who were thinking about signing Kaepernick, but then they didn't sign Kaepernick, and now to now sign RG3. It's so mind-boggling to me. I mean, maybe he's changed. Maybe he's gonna be a good backup. But I mean, a couple of weeks before the draft, I don't know why you would sign a veteran like RG3. I mean, I'm not sure. And to quote Bleacher Report, RG3 to the Ravens completes the NFL's dumbest offseason of quarterback signings.
Yeah, and you notice how they put Colin Kaepernick's picture in this article.
I did. Because you think about it, Matt Castle also signed with the Detroit Lions to back up, of course, Matthew Stafford.
Who is still just, is he's right there on that cusp.
Yeah,
And it's a shame that he can't break that ceiling. Because I really like Matt Stafford. Like, I like the way that he throws the ball and the way that he approaches the game.
definitely,
He easily can get people behind him a lot.
without question. I mean, but when's enough enough? When do we see Colin Kaepernick in a NFL jersey this offseason or this year? Period. Or you
So,
think he's
not
done?
not only will we not see Colin Kaepernick on an NFL team, but we will see the return of Johnny Football Manziel to spite Colin Kaepernick this year.
And that's pretty sad because I think Kaepernick's better than Menzel.
Kaepernick's better than a lot of the quarterbacks that got signed.
Yeah, it's pretty sad actually.
This is now what, year 3 of all this happening.
Yeah, he should really just go to Canada and just destroy teams. That's what I would do. Go to
Yeah,
another league and just destroy. Take the Warren Moon approach.
I mean, maybe he can just go to the XFL. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yeah, it's definitely a joke because you already know that Vince is like definitely not. He would lose all his sponsorship money immediately.
No, he's like, I want you to, I want you to do a dance for the people. What? Yeah, dance for them. You look just like our truth.
Wow.
And then there we'll have a bigger issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see what I did there?
No, that was definitely try to create some cash there.
No, it definitely created a lot of cash.
So, uh, not to jump back to basketball, but I just saw the scores up here. We were talking about Detroit having to win in the East, and right now they're losing to Philadelphia. So I don't think it's happening. It just popped on my screen there. Detroit losing to Philly, 23 seconds left. They need this win to stay in the hunt,
Ha!
and it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Not only is that not going to happen, I might laugh in Blake Griffin's face on Twitter.
Terrible. Terrible. But what else do we have for NFL? I mean, it was really not a huge week. I mean, outside the Rams making that trade, um, and some questionable signings, the NFL has been pretty quiet. As of last week, we had the league meetings, but this week it was more about just getting ready for the draft. Getting
Oh,
ready,
absolutely.
to compete, and then we get Brandon Cooks to the Rams.
I see what you did there. But I mean, as we're getting towards the draft, we'll start talking about that as we get near it, though. But
Yeah, I think we got about 2.5 weeks. Maybe actually three full weeks
three,
actually.
4 weeks, yeah, it's about a month away.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's April 28th. About 3 to 4 weeks
Yeah,
away. I would say probably on the 25th we'll probably start looking to give those, that mock draft and go over some mock drafts and see, who's rising, who's falling, so on and so forth.
absolutely.
I did see a report earlier that the Buffalo Bills are trying to do everything in their power to trade up to the number 2 spot with the Giants to obtain a quarterback. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that as time progresses. I doubt the Giants will trade out of that spot, but I don't know if the Giants are taking a quarterback, and that's where it's kind of interesting. They're in such an interesting position because they could definitely wait until the second round to take a quarterback, third
Mm-hmm.
round, I think somebody else mentioned that they had a quarterback on the roster already. That should be okay.
They're not going to do that.
Was his last name Webb? I think.
Yep.
But trading out of that second pick and passing on the likes of Saquon Barkley or Bradley Chubb, I think it would just be I think it would make Senior October become Senior September.
Ha. Well, I mean, right now, Senior October is more of an alignment of the planets or a
He,
solar eclipse. It only comes every 100 years.
I mean, he's starting to look like an illusion.
Ha. I see what you did there.
But other than that, I think that was all the NFL news that I know about, sir. Do you have anything else for the NFL?
Nope. I think we're at end game right now, sir. What are your final thoughts for the week?
So the final thoughts of the week. I saw a report earlier, which is getting pretty sad, and I kind of hope that the Duke starts to, touch on these shootings. But I did see that Julian Edelman actually submitted a report to the police after he was notified via Twitter or one of his social media platforms that a kid who was 14 years old in Michigan
Mm-hmm.
said that he was going to shoot up his school and told Edelman to watch the news, which is very sad. Of course, the kid was charged with making a false report of threat of terrorism, a felony, according to the Times. But this is getting pretty sad that every week, and even including yesterday, I think we had a shooting in California at the YouTube headquarters. I mean, it's getting out of hand.
It is. I mean, possibly that'll be something that Duke will talk about. Well, not this week's show because this week we'll be all watching WrestleMania, so there will be no Duke It Out this week. However, next week, post WrestleMania, we will definitely be having Duke It Out, who will be live here from scenic Dallas, Texas.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. So the next final thought I had, which I think is something that with all the quarterback talk, I was looking earlier and a name popped up that, we don't really hear about. And this is a guy who I think is a gamer. He's a winner. We've seen him on the big stage. We've seen him make some great throws. We've seen him make some great plays. JT Barrett
Mm-hmm.
from the Ohio State Buckeyes. I find it interesting that nobody's really talking about him, so he's probably going to be one of those fourth or fifth round guys. Unfortunately, maybe third through fifth, because he's kind of behind these other quarterbacks. So I know he ran a 4.7 at the 40. He's 6'1", 224. So obviously he's not going to get into that same conversation that Lamar Jackson gets thrown into as being a receiver.
Yep.
But JT Barrett's a quarterback, so it's going to be interesting to see where he goes in the draft. Um, Hopefully, he gets picked up by a good team and is able to make some noise.
No doubt.
My final thought. Unfortunately, last week I did say that it would be great if certain Duke players didn't declare for the draft. And one of those players, unfortunately, did declare for the draft today. Trevon Duval, the freshman from St. Benedict's Preparatory School, Duke point guard number one, is declaring for the draft, which I actually got a message during the show
Mm-hmm.
where one of my fellow Dookie fans said, not Duval, quote unquote, it's so tough to be a Duke fan.
I mean, it's not like you're a school in the Pac-12.
Yeah, but I think just losing good players. And I guess that's where the one and done rule gets kind of rough because you want to build, but I think if they were to get rid of the one and done rule, I think more players would take a look at depth charts a little more rather than the name of the school. They probably will take a look at where they'll get a chance to play right away as opposed to counting on a player leaving or not.
Yes.
So that's something to think about. But yeah, those that's my three final thoughts, sir. It's all yours.
Thank you very much, sir. So, first thing I want to talk about, I want to give a shout outs to my New York Yankees, who've been playing out of their minds. Granted, we are only 4-2 right now, but we have a bunch of injuries happening right now, but we're still making a pretty good impact with our big bats, Aaron Judge, John Carlos Stanton, who we just acquired, and Gary Sanchez. I mean, we're playing some pretty good baseball right now. You know, averaging about a 2.3 batting average. Even our pitching is doing pretty good. All of our pitchers, from starting to our closers to our relievers, are all pitching an ERA underneath 3, which is pretty good. At about a 5 WHIP, which is okay as well too. Well, actually, it's not WHIP. Their WHIP is average about 1.2. Yeah, about 1.2. Their fielding independent pitching averages about 3.9, which is actually not too bad, actually. So, we have a lot of injuries so far early on in the season. Greg Bird, Jacoby Ellsbury, Aaron Hicks, Clint Frazier, but they're gonna come back, and all I gotta say is watch out, AL East, and watch out, AL Division Conference. We're gonna come for you this year. So big shout outs to my Yankees so far. We actually won today, against the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Um, Tampa Bay Rays. I'm sorry, 7-2. Uh, and yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that. So that's my first final thought. The second final thought was something that I posted out in the Beta Monks Friends Facebook page, facebook.com/Beta Monks Friends. Make sure you like it. Definitely caused some stir since you wanted to mention the FGC, but it was about a gamer known as Sadokist, who's been under fire for stating racial slurs during a broadcast while playing a game called Players Unknown Battlegrounds, which is a survival game where it's kind of like Fortnite, except it's more realistic people kind of thing, and it's huge. And I haven't had a chance to actually play it yet, but probably my eh 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 probably not gonna play it. Anywho, he was celebrating his birthday, and during these celebrations, he said some things about another player, a community member actually. He basically said he can go die, and basically trying to tell this person to off himself. Uh, so Twitter took it off really fast, but Reddit managed to pick it back up. It actually got deleted from one subreddit into another subreddit called Livestream Fail. So if you wanted to find out what it is, just search for Sadokist /r/livestream fail, and you'll be able to actually see what he actually is saying. I'm not going to go into details about what all he said because it's really, really bad. But someone on Twitter who posted the article mentioned something that's something that people really want to people should really think about. He basically said, as long as people in the esports and streaming communities continue to defend dudes like this, and he's talking about Sadakist, with a ha, he shouldn't have gotten drunk on the stream alibi, instead of confronting issues heads on, those communities will continue to have problems with racism. And he's referencing to something with Mena RD, where and it could have been some miscommunication, but then it turned really, really bad, really, really fast. But it happened at the NCR event where he was facing off against Go One, who is a Japanese player, and one of his team members, one of his people, was basically hyping him up. But they wasn't playing on stage; they're playing off to the side. You know what I mean, Doc? But this one.
Of course.
But during the match, the person who is supporting Meta RD is cheering him on. He's saying a lot of stuff, talking a lot of smack. It things that happen in the FGC. Go One took offense to it, and rather than confront the situation, he waited until after the match ended because he lost to say something about it. And a lot of people have, varying different opinions about it. On one hand, yes, he should have been wearing headsets. He wasn't wearing headsets during the match, so he can literally hear everything and it's right there in his ear, and it can definitely distract. On the other hand, many people defended the person who was representing MNRD by saying this is just how the FGC is. Like, any and all, from the big events to the really small events, you're gonna have people hyping other people up. They're gonna talk smack. They're gonna, try to gas up their person to make them, do further. Like, their job there is to distract you. So it ended up just causing a big stir because people started throwing out a lot of racial comments towards people, towards MNRD and his friend, which led to MNRD saying, I mean, if this is the kind of community that want to keep going on like this, like, I might as well not even play anymore. So now, people are wondering whether or not he's going to be serious about this, whether or not he's going to take a hiatus on it, because the Capcom Pro Tour is now ongoing, and we always say it's road to WrestleMania. We're on the road to Evo right now. Evo is in
Hmm.
August. We're now in February. So 4 months from now, Evolution, which is a mystery, will be happening, and we do not know if we're gonna have Mena RD. So it's just something for people to take for food for thought, and that's my final thought.
Fantastic.
So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's track is by the artist Lyncitus. He is a composer of music. The name of the track we're going to be playing tonight is called Staying There. It is from his Plethoria album done in 2017. Always make sure you support the artists that we play. We always put the descriptions out there on the YouTube page, so be sure to check them out. Live my high, and always, you know, show them some love. Same thing for the intro track, the artist that we use for our intro track, Croup Dog. Still going strong, almost 100 episodes, ladies and gentlemen. I want to send out a personal thank you to everyone who supported the show, and for those that just don't even give it a click on social media and just go through it, we at least appreciate the fact you decide to look at it for a second. But, ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the end of the episode. Always be sure to support the Beta Monks Friends on Facebook and on Twitter at the Beta Monks Fra. You can follow myself on Twitter at Ken86, the Doc TL Double. You can listen to us online on YouTube every single Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, unless we have things that happen because life happens. But you can also listen to us offline on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher as of this week, and any and all podcast applications on your Android or Apple devices. But thank you very much for joining us tonight. Next week we'll talk more about sports, give our opinions, provide the reads that you need before we make your ears bleed. I am the Professor John Gotti.
And this is Dr. Wednesday Night.
And we'll catch you again next time, ladies and gentlemen. Same podcast time, same podcast channel. Peace and love.
Taste the ocean.
Asonjo!